Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Green Chat. My name is Cleeze, and this is a place where we take a closer look at the upcoming MMO, Pantheon Rise of Fallen. Sometimes you guys ask me questions, I give you my opinion. Totally format your own, but we're kind of going through all the classes and what they can do and what they're like. So we're going to be focusing on that. Today, we're going to be looking at the Druid. It's one of 3 support class healers, utility as well, that will be available to players at the game's release. So without further ado, let's get cracking into that Druid. Hey guys, hope you're doing well. Before we crack into the Druid real quick, again, these videos are not going to get released as quick as I would like them to, but I am going to do my best. I'm basically found out over the past week or so that this situation in the bedroom does not work at all, if you know what I'm saying. So what I'm going to be doing is creating like a mini studio that I'm going to set up in the living room and then bring down at night. It's just taking way longer to get this thing rolling again. Plus it's just me and it's crazy. But anyways, I just want to let you guys know what's going on. Like major procrastination. I'm like that guy. It's like, dude, I'll be there. No, I'll be there, bro. I'll be there. And then, yeah, you're like, where is this guy? So, yeah, in any case, sorry, Druids, that this had to be on your video. You just got lucky like that. But with that, let's get going on that Druid. All right, so let's start off with the basics. I like to start off with the available races to the Druids. So the Druids can be Archai, Dark Mirror, Elf, Halfling, Human, and Ogre. So they have quite the diverse racial profile. So if you were looking to blend in, you know, be a Druid, because at least the Druid healer, because they can be all over the place. And it's kind of cool, you know, if you want to hang out with a buddy and you can play healer and kind of start off anywhere almost. Next up, we have the Druid lore. So put on your little lore goggles and don't get any lore in your eyes, you know what I mean? So here we go. The wild-eyed Druid has answered a dangerous call to embrace the natural world of Terminus and peer into its mysteries. With the manifold fragments of other worlds and realms now on Terminus, the landscape is highly diverse and treacherous. For this reason, Druids are often revered as visionaries who can see beyond the fragmented terrain and into the heart of Terminus itself. At its core, the Druid is a light-armored mystic who is able to draw out aspects of the natural world and imbue them into the living things or project them into their surroundings. But there is a fine line they must walk as they gaze ever deeper into the secrets of Terminus. The layout on the site is, interesting. The Druids who learn to master these revelations are rumored to have incredible restorative abilities while wielding the power to command the weather itself. Surely there is rarely a display as awe-filled as this kind of fury when kindled. So, fury when kindled, guys, that's the Druid. So, the Druid's role will be healer, support, utility. Their combat resource will be mana. They don't have any trickery do like the other, or like some of the other classes. Not going to go into detail on other classes. With this, want to focus on the Druid, but their available armor will be cloth and leather. Available weapons will be one-handed blunt, two-handed blunt, one-handed edged, and shields. All right, and moving on, one of the iconic abilities that I think will be the Druid's iconic ability is the Vine Bridge or Wandering Stones. Vine Bridge is pretty self-explanatory. Create a viney bridge across an expanse that you otherwise can't pass, potentially without spells and stuff like that. And then Wandering Stones is the ability for the Druid to port between runes across Terminus. Of course, they'll have to visit these rune sites first, and I believe they will be able to gate their groups as well with these abilities. Something also of note to mention about the Druid is they will be able to command the Great White Fox known as Herod. This is one of their distinguishing factors to note, especially the way it will affect a majority of their abilities in a great amount of ways, which we will cover in depth. Basically, I would consider Herod's abilities an extension of the Druid. So you will have a pet as a Druid, and you'll have to manage that and micromanage that as you see fit. Really will be a distinguishing factor, I think, between Druids. Whoever is better at managing Herod as their pets. Also, I decided to break down all of the Druid's abilities into different subclasses for simplicity, just to make this information more easier to get through, because the way it's laid out on the website is a little, can be a little complicated, especially with the way that Herod influences different abilities. So I kind of broke it apart. And there will be overlap, of course, because I'll kind of give you the ability and then also give you the ability how it is affected by Herod, because Herod can make an ability do multiple different things. However, I did do my best to try to at least keep abilities in the category that best represents that ability. So the categories that I came up with was buff to self, buff to target and targets, debuff to status of NPC or player, damage, damage shields, utility, Herod's utility, crowd control, direct healing, heal over time, AoE group heals, shielding, likely major cooldowns for the Druid, and special items to note about the Druid. Also, I tried to break this up to accommodate those interested in PvP playing on the PvP servers. However, it's definitely more geared towards the PvP folks. Excuse me, I always do that. Definitely more geared towards the PvE folks that will be playing Pantheon Rise of the Fallen. Also, something interesting to note, some of the abilities mentioned, like defensive targets and offensive targets, you can create focus targets in Pantheon Rise of the Fallen. You'll be able to have two of them, one defensive, one offensive, and that's kind of self-explanatory if you know what focus targets are, but any offensive ability you cast will be directed towards your offensive target if you do not have an offensive target targeted. And then any defensive, like healing or buffs, will go to your defensive target by default if you have no friendly or like NPC targeted. Also, any passive abilities, defensive and interrupts, depending on their function, I subclass them into like archetypes for simplicity. All right, so let's get going. Sorry for that long intro, but I felt like it was good info to know before we totally kick into it. Also, something to note that these are just the abilities that Visionary Realms has decided to show to us. Definitely not the complete toolkit of the Druid, just kind of an example of what the Druid's capable of to give you an idea if it's something that you want to play. At least that's my impression of what this lineup is as far as the capabilities for the Druid go. So first up, we have buffs to self. Druids get Harness Trait. It's a passive ability. As a living conduit in the natural world, you are able to harness the traits of natural things through tactile contact. Those who don't know what tactile are, it's pretty intense stuff. Once harnessed, you may imbue these traits into yourself and others. As you grow in power, you'll be able to harness more powerful traits from a wider variety of things. Only one trait may be active on your target at a time. And next, Druids get Wild-Eyed Wanderer. Passive ability, your covenant with the natural world has cultivated a unique sense of trust from the animals of Terminus, making most of them unlikely to attack you unless provoked. This is actually a much more powerful buff, I think, than many people would appreciate in most MMOs out there now. Like, they'll be like, hey, what's the big deal? A little bear's not gonna like you? No big deal. And the next we have Vine-Woven Grove. You encircle yourself with a wall of resilient vines. Enemies must deal enough damage to break through the wall before they are able to get to you. While inside the grove of vines, you will regenerate X% of your max health for the duration or until the barrier is broken. Any movement will cancel this effect. So it's a pretty nice cooldown if you are in trouble. Hey, let's do this Vine-Woven thing. Or not Vine-Woven, but Vine-Woven Grove. Okay, and so next up we have buff to target or targets. It's getting a little hot in here, so, man, sorry, I probably just blew over the mic with that one. So, the buffs Druids get, or the first one is Storm Warden. Passive ability, it is said, when a Druid is present, they become the heart of any storm. While a storm is active in the area, you will receive a X% bonus to the healing and damage you deal with abilities, outdoors only. And that gets upgraded to Stormkeeper. This is a great example of how abilities can be upgraded through adventuring and doing really fun things. Stormkeeper, epic skill, passive ability. Your communion with the forces of nature is now absolute, allowing you to maintain your Storm Warden bonuses at all times, even indoors. So hey, you know, pretty cool stuff. Next they get imbued trait, Oaken Regeneration. You harness the restorative nature of oak trees, roots, and branches. This trait improves health regeneration and increases all healing your target receives by X%. So next up we have imbued trait, Panthera's Claw. There's a lot of imbues going on in this Druid world. You harness the deadly strength of the Pantheras. Hopefully, I mean, I'm saying Pantheras right, so it's not Panther, it's Pantheras, guys. It's seriously Pantheras. This trait greatly increases the strength and armor class of your target and makes them nearly impossible to stun with physical attacks. Super useful on bosses that stun your tank, because when your tank gets stunned, you know, you never know what might happen when your tank gets stunned. That's a bad time for a tank. Next we have Imbued Grizzly's Resilience. You harness the resilient nature of Grizzly Bear's frame. This trait increases the stamina and armor class of your target and makes them less likely to be stunned by physical attacks. Again, very nice buff. Imbued trait, Thunderpaw's Resilience. You harness the resilient nature of Thunderpaw's frame. This trait greatly increases the stamina and armor class of your target and makes them nearly impossible to stun with physical attacks. Replaces Grizzly's Resilience. Sorry, I had a really hard time saying replaces right there. And then we have Herode Shelter. You ask Herode to stand by your target ally. While Herode is near, all healing this target receives is increased by X%. Additionally, the target's actions will generate less hate until you call Herode back. So that's one of the little utilities that Herode can toss out, but it feels like a buff to other players, so I put it in there. All right, and to keep this Druid Storm going, next up we have debuff status to player or NPC. So, It's going to be Herod's Gaze. It's only one for right now, but this could expand later, guys. You never know. Herod's Gaze. You ask Herod to set her gaze on your enemy, reducing their nature and fire resistance and making them more vulnerable to your attacks. So, nice little debuff there. No big deal. All right, next category, we have damage and damage shields. So, first up, the Druid gets Call Lightning. You call a bolt of lightning to strike your enemy, inflicting shock damage. If Call of Lightning is used during a storm, strikes will inflict X% more damage, and there is a chance for up to 2 additional strikes based on your wisdom and your current level. Additionally, if the target is wet, you know what I'm saying, each strike will be guaranteed critical hit. So what they've done in the past, especially with EQ, as you level up, your basic spells will get more powerful. So I guess this is an example of this here, when it says it's based on your wisdom and your current level. It's not like you'll get a chance to do it. I mean, it is a chance, but at higher levels, it'll be super highly likely that more than one bolt will strike at the same time, which allows them to really give the ability more use. You know, it's gonna, you'll be like, oh man, Call of Lightning is like my go-to as a druid. And next up, we have Verdant Fire Vines. You grow a network of mystical vines around the members of your group. These vines will reflect X% of the physical and magical damage your group members receive back at the attacking enemy. And then you have Verdant Fire Spear. You hurl a spear of pure verdant fire at your enemy, inflicting nature and fire damage. If Herod's Gaze is active on your enemy, this ability will silence them for X duration. The next category we have up is utility. Surprisingly, this one is jam-packed with stuff as the Druid. Sorry, I'm kind of scrolling through it here. So, utility, Druid, Reverberation, passive ability. When an ally is under the effect of any of your healing abilities, and they are healed by another player in the group, that healing effect will jump to another group member as well. Pretty sweet. Now, when I first read this, I didn't fully think I read it right, or maybe when you hear this, you might not hear it right. Basically, if you have healing abilities on a player, and they're healed by another player, that healing effect will jump. So basically, Cleric heals one of your guys with a buff on them, that Cleric's ability has a chance to jump, not so much the Druid's. Maybe it'll also play the Druid, but the way it's worded right now is that other healers will benefit from this, which will make you very useful in raiding if your buffs are out there, just if you think about that. Granted, you can't really control who it jumps to, but even still, having that much more throughput, even if it's kind of random, is always a nice plus. And then we have, you know, Macy's Gift. You know, again, if I'm saying Macy's wrong, holy cow. This is what I read earlier, but I'll read it again. This is Herod the White Fox. It's a second mention. It's a passive ability as a preserver of the natural world. At least I think I did read it earlier, but we'll see. So, passive ability as a preserver of the natural world, the halfling ward known as Macy has chosen to, it's probably not Macy at all, it's like, whatever, has chosen to gift you with the mystic companion in the form of a small white fox. Your fox is a manifestation of Macy's own companion, the great white fox known as Herod. As you begin your journey, your soul will be bound to your white fox, and her soul will be bound to you. So it's a little female fox. Cute, man. That's cute. Through this bond, the two of you will be capable of more and more powerful and diverse feats as you progress on your journey. So it's pretty cool. You'll have this white fox with you, grows with you in power. If you're into pets or you're into pet classes and you like healing, this is super awesome. There's not many games out there that offers this kind of, you know, I think it's really cool having a little white fox pet. And maybe you can change its colors, get it, you know, get it do a quest to get Herod to magically look different, maybe. I don't know. So then next up we got Imbue trait Swiftgill's Fin. You harness the aquatic nature of the Swiftgill. This trait increases the swimming speed of your target and allows them to breathe underwater. Super useful because we do know there will be underwater environments, or it's mentioned that we should expect underwater environments, maybe. We'll have to see, but you know, they're putting this buff in there, so why would they not? You know what I'm saying? Okay, Imbue trait Black Wolf's Swiftness. Bam. Black Wolf Swiftness. Can't even say swiftness. This is very well known as Spirit of the Wolf for many people, but now it is Black Wolf Swiftness. I can see why they moved away from Spirit of the Wolf, because the carryover would be painful. People would be like, what? Yes, whatever. I don't know if it would be painful or not, but you harness the speed and agility of the Black Wolf, allowing you to imbue these traits into your ally. These abilities increase the movement speed of your targets. Basically makes you run faster. Pretty big deal in a large world where time is money, friend. Then we have Imbue trait Veilhawk's Grace. You harness the avian nature of the Veilhawk. This trait increases the target's jump height and allows them to glide while falling. So, kind of cool, you know, because there's a lot of terrain where that will be super useful. We've seen that in mini streams where you can jump off some cliffs and have no issue with it, minus aggroing half a zone. Mantle of Leaves. You gather leaves around you, and form them into a mystical cloak, making you invisible to living non-magical targets, outdoors only. Non-magical targets is actually a very important thing. Not a lot of people will be used to that, but it's something to note. There will be magical and non-magical entities in Terminus. Next, you have Firefly. You ask a Firefly to travel with you while providing a weak light source. So probably look pretty cool, nice little, looking kind of nifty. And you won't have to take up a slot with a torch. You'll be able to wield whatever weapons you do and still have a light source while you're at it. Next up, we have Woven Bridge. This is what I was talking about before, which may be one of the iconic abilities. You form a bridge out of interlocking vines, allowing you and others to cross a gap that is too wide to jump across. And then next up, which may also be an iconic ability, I have no idea, it's probably Woven Bridge, or Vine Woven Bridge, but you never know, is Wandering Stones. Explorers have noted the presence of ancient iridescent stones that stand within shrines hidden amid the groves and wilds of Terminus. These stones have come to be known as Wandering Stones and are seething with druidic magic. Because of this, it is rumored that druids are somehow able to attune to these Wandering Stones and travel between them, and perhaps there is even more to these stones than most realize. So maybe they're trying to make that more of a mysterious thing. We'll have to find out. And next we have Weave the Wind. You weave the winds into a small tempest in front of your ally, stopping all physical ranged attacks from inflicting damage on the target for a short time. So it's pretty solid. Especially if you're using a root as a CC and it's like a guy that can cast like a ranger type guy, or a guy that's utilizing a bow, obviously, and that can be more powerful than it looks like at its basic level, because it kind of looks like it's kind of annoying to deploy, especially if it's for a short time, but we'll have to see. So next we have Upheaval. You cause the ground beneath you to quake and roll, pushing all enemies up to X meters away from you. If Herod's Focus is active when using this ability, you may activate Vine Woven Grove without triggering its cooldown. If you remember, Vine Woven Grove was that shield that you put up around yourself and you regain health when you're in it, but if you move it goes away. So you can pop it without causing a cooldown, and then you can almost do it back to back with Upheaval if Herod's Focus is active on you at that time. Next we have Gust of Leaves. You send a strong gust of cross-cutting winds and leaves into your enemy's face, interrupting their spell casting. If Herod's Gaze is active on your enemy, this ability will cause the next ability that lands on this enemy to critically hit. Alright guys, so next category. We're on to the next category now. So it's Herod's Utility. And I have to mention, I hope it's Herod. Since I've been gone from Green Chat, I've only gotten worse at pronunciations or enunciations or any type of anything that comes out of my mouth that is supposed to be structured phraseology or something that you're intended to interpret. Just so you know. So good luck, and I appreciate you still, you're like halfway through right now and you're still listening if you are. And you're a better man than me. So Herod's Focus. You ask Herod to focus her attention on you. In this state, Herod will be able to amplify several of your abilities. So I went through and picked out all the abilities when Herod's Focus is active on the actual player. So first up, we have Verdant Fire Tree. We haven't even gotten this ability yet, but Verdant Fire Tree healing radius is now increased. And then we have Verdant Fire Spear, which we've already covered, which will also silence now on top of dealing the damage. And then we have Upheaval, now allows Vine Woven Grove to be used without triggering a cooldown. We just covered that one. And then we have also Rock Vine. Tangle reduces armor class to enemies in the effect. So if the enemy is affected with Rock Vine Tangle, they now get an armor class reduction as well. And then Gust of Leaves will cause the next ability landed to be a critical hit. Alright, and moving on to the next of Herod's Utility, we have Herod's Rescue. You ask Herod to bring your target group member to the center of the Verdant Fire Tree, which we'll get to shortly, with supernatural speed. Herod will leave a patch of rock vines where your ally was standing, rooting the enemies within X meters of that location for a wide duration. You must have Verdant Fire Tree active to use this ability. And next up we have Herod's Chrysalis. You ask Herod to plant a mystical seed within your ally. When this ally takes damage that will kill him or kill them, kill him or her, them, whatever, this seed prevents their death and blooms into a protective chrysalis. While inside the chrysalis, target cannot be damaged and will emerge with X% of their maxed health and mana restored. So pretty cool. It's kind of like an oh shoot thing. You can either delay this or probably precast it by any measure, but this is something you would probably want to not precast, and could almost be considered like, not a battle res in a sense, but you could cheese a mechanic with this because they could just run out and eat it and then die. There's many things you could be doing with this ability that make it rather handy to have in your pocket. And then next category, we have crowd control. So we just went over this one, or yeah, it was mentioned at least, the rock vine tangle. You cause powerful thorn-covered vines to erupt from the ground and entangle your enemies, rooting them for X seconds and dealing moderate damage over time. This effect can be broken by damage. If Herode's Gaze is active on your enemy, this ability will crack your enemy's defenses, reducing their armor class by X%. And then we have Herode's Rescue. Again, this is second mention. I put this under crowd control in a sense because you could almost use those roots if you were like super pro. A guy could run out to a mob, for example. The Herode rescues where Herode grabs a member, brings them back to the Verdant tree, and it leaves a root patch in its place that could potentially root somebody if you really want to. I mean, you could almost bring yourself there. I don't know. We'll have to see if the Druids are able to target themselves with Herode's Rescue, because that would also be a really amazing way for you to utilize yourself for some mobility, or extra mobility anyways, and a little protection with a little root on the side. All right, so next category we have is direct healing. Interestingly enough, Herode's Flame, you ask Herode to release a surge of verdant fire into your ally, healing them for a moderate amount. This seems to be a keyword, being moderate. What's interesting about this is that Herode pretty much executes one of your most powerful heals. Potentially, that's what it looks like, direct heals. So you won't necessarily need a line of sight to heal a main target with your strongest direct heal. So something of interest to note there, like you could be around a corner and be around the corner, Herode will be in line of sight of you, and then also in line of sight of your target. So we'll have to see where that gets taken to. And then we have Herode's Presence. You ask Herode to stand by your target ally while she is near. Whenever this target receives healing, Herode will also heal the target for X% of that amount. So you basically focus Herode on an ally, and then we'll do little touch and go heals on that target when they receive any heal from any other player. All right, so next category we have is heal over time. Heal over time, boys. Druids heal over time. So Druids get Verdant Fire Tree. Pretty cool ability. You create a Verdant Fire Tree at a target location. All allies within a certain distance from the tree will receive healing over time. Sorry, the verbiage sometimes just gets me. The amount of healing will increase dramatically the closer you are to the center of the tree. If Herode's Focus is active, when you use this ability, the healing radius of the Verdant Fire Tree will be increased for its duration. In addition, the amount of damage absorbed by Verdant Fire Seeds will increase dramatically if target is within Verdant Fire Tree's effect radius, which we haven't covered Verdant Fire Seeds yet, but we will. And also, Verdant Fire Vines will also heal your group members for a small amount whenever they take damage if they're within the Verdant Fire Tree's radius. And if you guys forgot what Verdant Fire Vines was, it's when you grow a network of mystical vines around the members of your group. These vines will reflect X% of the physical magical damage your group members receive back at the attacking enemy. So when you toss that out around your group, if they're near the Verdant Fire Tree, it will also heal them along with reflecting damage. Okay, next category is AoE group heals. Druids get Preserver's Wildfire. You animate 3 tendrils of Verdant Fire that lash around you wildly, damaging any enemy and healing any ally they touch. These tendrils grow longer and reach farther every second for the duration of the ability. You will be able to animate more than 3 tendrils based on your wisdom, intelligence, and constitution. And then Druids also get Verdant Fire Tree. We just covered that in Heal Over Time in pretty good depth, so we'll skip over that and move on to the next topic, but consider that as well an AoE group heal. So moving on to the next category is shielding. Druids get some shielding, and that is Verdant Fire Seed. We just mentioned that again with the Verdant Fire Tree, so this ability will be increased when they are near the Verdant Fire Tree. So Verdant Fire Seed is you plant a mystical seed within your ally. This seed protects the target by absorbing up to X damage based on your level. When this amount is reached, the seed will bloom and heal your target for the amount of damage it absorbed. Y% of the effective healing your target receives will be refunded to you as mana. You may apply a Verdant Fire Seed to as many targets as you like, but only 1 seed may be active on a target at a time. Once the seed blooms, the healing is applied. You may not cast this ability on the same target for Z duration. Alright, so first off, that ability sounds really confusing, but I'll break it down really quick. At least initially it was for me. I had to send a little tweet to Joppa to be like, hey, can you clarify this? And he totally did. So first let's talk about effective healing. So the effective healing this ability does gives you mana back. So if you shield somebody who has 100% life, they take damage, this thing pops, and it doesn't actually heal them for any amount of damage. You get no mana back. But if somebody's at half life And whatever healing they get from this seed, that's the return on mana you get. So their health bar has to move up for it to be effective healing. Next, what we need to know is, how is this really super useful? This is super useful, especially in a raid. So the way it's worded is kind of funky, but what you could potentially do is, if you know a boom is coming out to your raid for any measure of reasons, basically a lot of damage is coming, that's going to be coming soon to your entire raid, you can start seeding up your raid with Verdant Fire seeds. Now the way it's worded doesn't sound like you can do this, but you can have the seed out on any target you want and on as many targets as you want, basically. But once the seed pops, the target will then receive a debuff that lasts for Z duration, and while that debuff is active, you can't seed them again. So basically, you seed a target, he takes no damage because the seed's absorbing it. Once the seed takes the amount of damage, or the max amount of damage it can take, it then explodes, heals for the amount of damage that it did take, and then that person receives a debuff, not allowing them to get another seed for a short duration. Once that debuff is gone, you can then reapply the seed. So, you know, if you have 20 people in your raid, you're going around seeding the whole raid. That is pretty useful because you're constantly cushioning a raid, and that's called pretty much shield healing for the most part, or absorb healing, however you want to word it. But super duper strong, almost in any MMO that's out right now, and I can almost imagine, or not almost imagine, but would imagine that it will be powerful as well in Pantheon Rise of the Fallen. So that's Verdant Fire Seed and Druids get shielding. So next up we have likely major cooldowns. I just kind of pulled this up because, or I pulled some abilities together for this because, hey, why not? And it's probably going to be the likely major cooldowns for the Druids. One's Herode's Chrysalis. That's where they put somebody in Chrysalis. If they get down to 0% life, the Chrysalis will then active and the target cannot be damaged, and then will emerge with X% of their health and mana restored. I could almost expect they'll get a aggro wipe when they do this, so it might not be super useful on tanks, but maybe they won't get an aggro wipe because they technically don't die, and then you could almost use this to tank through some unlivable effect, almost. We'll have to see. I don't know. This sounds really interesting. But again, this is just, this is pre-alpha, guys, so they may change some. Obviously, there's going to be plenty of tweaking to be done here, and limitations maybe on some of these abilities when people find ways to abuse them. And then another likely major cooldown will definitely be Upheaval. This is where you cause the ground beneath you to quake and roll, pushing all enemies up to X meters away from you. If Herode's Focus is active when using this ability, you may activate Mindworn Grove without triggering its cooldown. I have a feeling this is going to be like an oh shoot situation, and you'll be able to utilize Upheaval to get out of a sticky situation yourself. And then you have Vine-Woven Grove. You encircle yourself with a wall of resilient vines, which we just went over. This will also probably have a large cooldown, as it's pretty much a defensive oh shoot again. So you have Upheaval and Vine-Woven Grove. So Druids are pretty self-resilient, or good at getting out of sticky situations. And the next category we got is special items to note about the Druid. So I felt like it was pretty cool stuff just to kind of go over again and mention reverberation, which is the passive ability. While under the effects of your healing abilities, basically your other people's heals will be able to jump to other players. I thought that was pretty stinking nifty. Also, you get the Herode the White Fox. That is legit, and you know, it's super cute. Super cute. Little Druids, White Foxes, very nice. The Storm Warden buff plus the Stormkeeper buff, where you get X% bonus increase to damage and healing, eventually indoors, is really cool for the Druid, and it's something to really work towards. It's like, oh, you're a Stormkeeper now. Good luck, bro. But in any case, definitely very cool, or something special about the Druid. The Druids get a lot of special stuff. And then you got Black Wolf Swiftness, you know, a lot like Spirit of the Wolf, but Black Wolf Swiftness, run faster, not a big deal. Pretty sweet stuff. Wine-Woven Bridge and Wandering Stones. We already mentioned those, I think, like 6 times, so I'm not going to go over those again, but definitely something to note, or something special to note about the Druid. And then the Verdant Fire Tree, something I wanted to mention about that, which is also really special. I think Druids will be, or exceptionally excel at group healing when a lot of damage is going out and the group can stack for any reason. So with this Verdant Fire Tree, you get more healing the closer you are to the center of the tree, and this is likely going to be consistent healing that you can put out that's super strong if your group can group up, or members of your group can group up. Maybe ranged can group up when they need to, when a large amount of damage is going out. And Verdant Fire Tree, I think, will be very strong in many situations with that in regard. And then we have Herode's Flame, which is really cool because maybe it doesn't require line of sight for you and your target, where Herode basically releases a surge of Verdant Fire into your ally, healing them for a moderate amount. So you maybe don't even need to have LOS on your main heal target, which will be a lot of healers, you know, super exciting time. But then you might run into the other issue, like, my pet can't see its target. So maybe there's going to be a whole new whack of issues with that. And then next up, you have Heroic Chrysalis, which we've mentioned a few times, where you can get tossed in that little crystal and just hang out and come out with some, you know, a little bit more health and mana. No big deal, but super nice effect. It's almost like, you know, if you know the guy's going to die, you can do that. It's almost like a emergency battle res, sort of. Not even at all, but you could almost consider it, you know, if the Druid held onto it and then toss it out on really, you know, VIP targets in a raid like healers and tanks when the time called for it. Be pretty nice. Then you got that Verdant Fire Spear along with Heroic's Gaze for the silent, which is really nice. So you can potentially bring targets in closer to you depending on their disposition. You know, maybe they have the AI or to know to run away if they get silenced and stuff like that. But we don't know. And then lastly, this is, I think, the most important thing about the Druid is Heroic's Focus. It might be a pain in the bootay to manage, but once you've managed, or at least built up the muscle memory to get this down to the point where you don't really have to think about where Heroic's Focus is at, I think it'll make you a really amazing Druid, or basically set you apart from, yo, this Druid is sick, or this Druid's some good stuff, versus this Druid over here, which kind of sucks, you know, which is probably Cleeze. But anyway, yeah, that's the Druid special items to note, in my opinion. All right, guys, and with all things, this is the end of what we have, or what we know so far, on the Druid that VR has presented to us. Granted, there will be more later, or at least we need to get into the game to see the more, because they don't want to give us too much. You know, they want to at least have that carrot that we need to chase. So they're just going to tell you enough to know, hey, this class is for me, or not. Hopefully they gave you enough to make that decision. But at least that was the goal of this video. So that is the Druid. Hope you guys liked it. Again, let me know what you think about the Druid in the comments below. I'd like to hear your thoughts. I personally think the Druid looks really cool, and very excited to see what they will be like in Pantheon Rise of the Fallen. And with that, guys, hey, if you enjoyed what you saw here, please consider liking and subscribing and clicking the little bell for notifications if you're interested to get notifications for future uploads that I do. And also, if this is the first video you've seen with Green Chat, I'm actually in the middle of a move on the back end of it, so I'm running into a lot of weird problems with getting Green Chat kicked up again. So my schedule as it is right now is pretty hectic. It was way more difficult to make this video than I anticipated. However, I think I mentioned at the beginning of the video, but I'm coming up with solutions. I'm going to move this situation into my living room at nighttime to kind of make like a mini studio. That's my goal, mini studio style. But hey, for now, guys, I really appreciate you checking this out. And till next time, I'll see you again really soon.